Honestly, this episode got surprisingly depressing towards the end, but I commend them for actually committing to the emotional sayonara, see you later. This show is actually doing something very similar to another anime that's currently airing, and it's in its third season this season, which is Golden Kamuy. Golden Kamuy is a show that I can't define by any specific anime genre, and I consider it to have invented its own anime genre because of how many things it does in a single episode. Noblesse is actually doing pretty much the same thing, not in the same vein as Golden Kamuy, but you can't really hold down this show as being an action or a drama or a slice of life or any absurd comedy. It kind of does feel like it bounces around multiple anime genres, and maybe that's why I've enjoyed this show since episode 1. Golden Kamuy is a criminally underrated show that isn't appreciated far enough, and honestly, Noblesse is in the same camp. A show that doesn't really hold itself down by playing with the traditional tropes and traits, it's not going to get as much buzz and marketing as something that does play with the cliches and things like that. This show, I can't deny, should have had a 2-core, because you can feel the 1-core syndrome taking place, where even though each episode I would argue is properly paced, you can tell there's a couple of episodes worth of content we could have seen before the currently well-paced episode that would have made a transition from action spectacle to shoujo sports drama episode feel a lot more natural. But if we're looking at the episode in particular, I would argue this was a very well-paced episode. It just does bounce around a lot of ideas and themes, but for someone like me who loves those types of shows that take those risks, it really does bring a giant grin to my face. Something I honestly thought this episode was going to forget was the memories, because walking into this episode, it felt like either A, they erased their memories and we just didn't get any explanation of it, or we're just gonna not acknowledge the elephant in the room that, there's a lot of supernatural things going on and we're gonna become a shoujo episode. Which I have to say, it's kind of hilarious that Yu watches and reads a little bit of shoujo manga, watches a little bit of shoujo anime, and then the next day we turn the entire cast into shoujo protagonists. That then becomes a basketball anime, that then becomes a kind of romance drama, to then kind of a sappy goodbye, which honestly got me a little bit emotional. This episode really felt like, at surface level, didn't have any structure, and the first 5 minutes or so did make me kind of step back and say, what's going on here? I expected we'd get back to this eventually, but I thought maybe there'd be a bit more serious subject matter before we would get back into the craziness that is these goofballs and how they interact with each other. What I can say is, even though the first little bit of the episode threw me for a loop, by the time I reached the ending, I appreciated the entire package. I much prefer having the emotional stuff at the end of the episode, because then it makes you appreciate those first 15 minutes a hell of a lot more than if we would have started off with that and then we saw all of this, because it honestly did feel like a farewell party. It felt like all these moments of building up with Sierra and you and just having this romance plotline that we're like, it doesn't really matter, do we really need to see that? It was kind of like a will they, won't they, they're hinting at it, and then by the time before we saw the memory conversation, it was like, oh, they're actually committing to this. And the idea of memories and feelings and having them be separate is such a powerful theme of the episode. Because this is now the second time they've had their memories erased. The difference is this time they're confronted about it, and they are fully wanting to keep them. They're begging Rai and the others to let them keep their memories because we don't care if we're in danger. We want to help you. We want to remember these times because we want to cherish what you guys did for us. It's very interesting to commit to something that is painful. I fully expected, because of how Rai was and how much he clearly cherishes these characters, that we were not going to commit to a memory alteration. And I was like, at first, I was really okay with that. But then as the conversation went on and we're talking about how even if they know, even if it's not going to be a guaranteed safeguard, you have been put in danger before even knowing who I was, it does make you a bit safer not having the memories of knowing what the nobles are and what the noblesse is. I realized there's no other option. These are normal humans and we do need to erase their memories, as painful as it may be, and even if Rai doesn't show it, he's definitely saddened by what has to happen. That's when I was like, okay, you really need to commit to this, but there's no way they're going to. At this point, we built a really interesting connection with all these characters. We had an entire episode of them goofing off, playing basketball, having this love quarrel, and you're gonna erase their memories? There's no way they're going to, even though logically, based on what they're telling us, they should do it, and they committed to it. It's not like they committed to it and they were thrashing around and being mad saying, I hate you. They asked a very simple question. Are memories and feelings different? As long as my feelings remain and everything that I feel about you guys will remain the same, is that what it is? And Rai says, the best thing ever. You will still be Yusuke. And I was like, that is such a great way to tie the episode together. Coming off of last week, emotionally and visually the best we've seen, and kicking off into a shoujo episode. That's weird. It's a little drastic, it's a little jarring. And then you end it with this memory erase and you appreciate the entire package a hell of a lot more. The first 5 minutes I was iffy on, and then minutes 6 through 15 I really enjoyed. The love letter, the basketball game. I'll be honest, some of the animation during the basketball game felt very high quality, I have to admit, the dribbling and stuff. They had some fun with the animation there, which did bring a grin to my face, and I was having fun. I liked the idea of most of them taking it far too seriously and not letting our boys show up the others in order to impress the girl. Hell, you even get some really nice lines from him saying like, even if you love someone, they don't have to love you back. There's some good messages and themes in this episode. I was really like, okay, maybe the first little bit of the episode took a little bit to get rolling, and it's probably just because we came off of last week and we really were like not expecting this, but once we got the momentum going, we're having fun. We're like, okay, let's see what's going to happen next week, because you probably assume it's just going to end on a pretty nice note. And then the memory conversation comes up, and I'm like, okay, I see what this episode's objective was this entire time, and I really like it. This show will never be for everyone, and I totally understand that, but episodes like these really do indicate to me why I enjoy this show, because even though I do wish this was a 2-core, like not a split core, like a back-to-back 2-core, we could carry this over into winter, I really could see the pacing be a lot better. I've seen some people say like, oh, they wish it was a long-running show. I don't, because then it would fall victim to a lot of long-running shonens where it's a lot of filler, a lot of fluff, and some people may argue the basketball and the shoujo romance is fluff. I would argue not, it's personal interconnected relationships between these characters. I just think if we had a 2-core, we'd be able to flesh it out and maybe have like something in between action and then this episode to just kind of ease us in so it's not as drastic, so we can appreciate the episode fully before having to get used to it, because it does feel like every week we do have to get used to whatever we're seeing because it's vastly different than the other. And that is something that when you kind of invent your own anime genre, you kind of have to find your own momentum. And even Golden Kamuy, which I mentioned before, kind of had that issue a little bit, just not as drastic, I think, in my honest opinion. But nonetheless, the show is great, and the idea of memories and feelings, I think, is exceptional. It's something that you may argue like, oh no, they're probably going to remember again, and we're probably going to have the same conversation. And I do expect eventually they won't erase their memories. Based on the end of the episode after the credits, I kind of feel like the next time they realize Rai probably won't erase their memories, especially if they do get targeted. Even with their memories erased, you'll probably say there's no use at this point. But looking at it from their perspective, they have to keep the ones that they cherish safe, and even if it's only a 0.1% chance that they'll be safer and not remembering who they actually are, it's worth taking that risk even if it hurts, knowing that they won't remember all the great times you shared and just shared in this actual episode. To me, this is a show, and this is an episode that won't get talked about as much as I think it deserves to be, but it's something that I enjoy. Is it my favorite of the season? No, but is it something that I'm glad I'm continuing to watch every Wednesday? Absolutely. It's a show that I'll continue to recommend to anyone who likes something that's different and bold, and honestly, you can't say it feels like traditional anime, even if certain elements do feel like it does fit in that traditional category. Noblesse is anything other than traditional. It's Noblesse, and I like it for that. Whatever you're feeling about the episode, though, let me know. What did you think, and what was your favorite personal moment? Because for me, honestly, as much as I love the emotional part of the episode, I do think that's the best part. That basketball game, I thought it was amazing, and I really enjoyed it. Let me know, though, whatever your favorite moment is. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like to show your support and hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.